Hey everyone! Welcome to Anime Dreams. Whether you're new here or a returning fan, I'm glad to have you. Today, we're diving into part 2 of our exciting fanfiction. What if Naruko had the Sharingan? Disclaimer: this channel is dedicated to entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage used. Full credit goes to their rightful creators and copyright holders. Now, without further ado, let's jump right in. First day at the Ninja Academy. The first day at a ninja academy, an occasion most would find unforgettable. And today, it was Reeve's turn. Rin had walked him to the academy, as Obito and Kakashi were away on a mission. "Are you excited?" Rin asked, holding the young boy's hand. Though calling him a little kid felt almost inaccurate, given that his journey as a shinobi was about to begin. "Absolutely." Reeve responded with a bright smile. He was dressed in black tracksuit pants, a sleeveless black vest over a long-sleeved mesh shirt, and finished his outfit with ankle-high boots reinforced with metal caps. Around his neck, he wore a pendant, a subtle yet meaningful accessory. Reeve possessed a temperament that reflected both his parents. He had his father's composed and observant nature, coupled with a sharp intellect that often made him seem beyond his years. At the same time, he carried his mother Mikoto's kindness and empathy. However, there was no mistaking the signature Uchiha temper or the Hatake level of focus he had inherited. As they walked, Rin found herself lost in memories of the past 5 years, moments filled with both challenges and laughter. There had been difficult times, especially with the number of times Reeve had been targeted, but the joy they had shared made everything worthwhile. She wouldn't trade those memories for anything. "Are you nervous?" Rin asked, though in truth, she was the one feeling anxious. "Nope," came Reeve's simple and direct reply. She watched as he struggled to tie his ponytail, a task he never enjoyed. He had a strong dislike for haircuts, a sentiment that dated back to his very first one, an event that ended with him accidentally cutting his own head open due to his inability to sit still. Since then, he had developed an aversion to razors, keeping his hair just short enough to be manageable. The sides and back of his head were shaved, while the top was pulled into a short ponytail, barely 10 centimeters long. "Thanks," Reeve muttered as Rin helped him adjust it. After arriving at the academy, Reeve made his way to class. The moment he stepped inside, a paper ball whizzed past his head. Unfazed, he simply took a seat in the back row, idly twiddling his thumbs. "Who's that?" a girl whispered to her friend. "I'm not sure." "Let's go find out," the other replied. The two girls approached Reeve, who remained seated, his expression neutral. "Hi," one of them greeted nervously. "Hello," Reeve responded calmly. "I'm Chelsea," she introduced herself. "Reeve," he replied in a plain yet polite manner. "You're new, aren't you?" "What gave it away?" Reeve asked with a slight smirk, his tone light-hearted. Before the conversation could continue, a boy from the front of the class suddenly stormed up to Reeve, grabbing him by the collar and shoving him against the wall. "I know who you are." The boy growled, his eyes filled with hostility. Reeve remained composed. "And who exactly am I?" he asked, his voice steady. "A demon." The boy spat before throwing a punch. However, before the strike could land, Reeve swiftly countered with a precise kick to the boy's stomach, sending him tumbling down the stairs. "So what if I am?" Reeve said nonchalantly as he returned to his seat. Before the situation could escalate further, the classroom door opened, and a teacher stepped inside. The students quickly scrambled to their seats. "All right, class, welcome to your first day at the academy," the instructor announced. "I am Naruko Umino, and I will be overseeing your training. But first, I need to assess your physical fitness." The class moved outside for their evaluation. As Reeve observed the surroundings, he noticed Iruka engaged in what appeared to be a struggle with a younger student over a rather unusual possession, a scythe. The weapon featured a 4-foot-long staff and 3 distinct blades of varying lengths, 1.25 feet, 1 foot, and 0.75 feet. It was unmistakably the signature weapon of Yugakure. "Hey!" This is mine. The young boy protested, effortlessly holding the hefty weapon despite Iruka's clear struggle to take it away. Uncle Hidan gave it to me. The boy had silver hair styled into a ducktail, fair skin, and striking cyan eyes. He wore a simple black hoodie, 3/4 length pants, and sandals, with a specialized holster on his back designed to carry the scythe. You're only 6. You shouldn't be carrying something this dangerous, Iruka reasoned. But we? The boy whined dramatically before firmly embedding the scythe's blades into the concrete behind him with surprising ease. Iruka let out a defeated sigh. Fine, fine. You can keep it, just don't use it on anyone, he relented with a nervous chuckle. Yay! The child cheered, visibly delighted. Reeve turned to Iruka, who still looked slightly unsettled. Who is that? He inquired. Iruka shuddered slightly before responding. That's Suikazan Hagoromo. He took a trip to Yugakure for a vacation and didn't return for an entire month. When they finally found him, his eyes had turned cyan, and he had gained an incredible boost in physical abilities, Iruka explained. No one really knows what happened to him, but I hope you get the chance to catch up to him someday. He could use a worthy challenge. Iruka chuckled. The class lined up at the starting point of the running course, which stretched around the entire perimeter of Konoha, a considerable distance. As Iruka blew the whistle, the students took off, though most quickly fell behind Suikazan. However, one person managed to keep pace with him, Reeve. Oh? Someone can actually keep up with me? Suikazan remarked, glancing over his shoulder. Hey, I'm Suikazan Hagoromo. And you are? Reeve. Suikazan raised an eyebrow. Usually, people introduce themselves with their full name. Reeve Hatake. Ah, Reeve Hatake. Nice to see a relative of Kakashi around. So that makes you my rival, huh? Suikazan grinned, giving a thumbs up. Just call me Suika. And you can eat my dust, Reeve shot back, sprinting ahead. Oh, it's like that? Suika smirked and took off after him. About an hour later, the two reached the finish line, having run the entire course around Konoha. They arrived to find that most of their classmates had exhausted themselves early on and had to be carried back. Suika and Reeve exchanged amused glances before heading to the swing set, competing to see who could swing the highest. You know, there's something really unusual about your energy, Suika remarked. Oh? You noticed? Reeve replied. Yup. When I was in Yugakure, they taught me all about different types of energies, Suika explained. And you definitely have something unique. Right, Jinchuriki-san? Reeve remained silent. Come on, no need to be so tense. You'd be shocked if you knew what kind of energy I have, Suika teased, sticking out his tongue in an attempt to lighten the mood. What do you mean? Reeve asked, intrigued. Well? It's kind of complicated. I can't quite remember the right word for it, but let's just say, I can't be defeated. What? Alright, class, now that we've finished our warm-up, let's see how well you perform in a sparring match, Iruka announced. Reeve and Suika paired up, both grinning with excitement. Iruka handed each of them a practice kunai, much to their disappointment. But I already have my own weapon. Suika protested. Same here. Reeve added, clearly dissatisfied. Iruka shook his head firmly. Not happening. Suika, you're already difficult to manage with that heavy scythe, and Reeve, there's no way you're getting your sword for this exercise. The matches turned out to be quite amusing. Every time someone attempted a move and failed, Suika would burst into laughter, making it hard to take the fights too seriously. When it was Suika and Reeve's turn, they stepped into the sparring ring, which had been prepared with a symbolic seal of confrontation after each match. Both took their stances, Reeve gripping his kunai in a reverse hold while Suika adjusted to the unfamiliar lightweight weapon, eventually settling into a stance reminiscent of the gentle fist style. Strange. Neither of them has formal training, yet their stances are nearly perfect, Iruka observed, intrigued. This is so uncomfortable, Suika thought with mild frustration. I really dislike using light weapons. With a respectful nod, Suika smirked. Ready to lose? Reeve responded confidently, the only one losing here is you. Without hesitation, both dashed forward, their kunai clashing and producing sparks from the impact. Suika attempted a high spinning kick, but Reeve swiftly countered by sweeping at his legs, forcing Suika to jump. As Suika landed, he brought his heel down toward Reeve's shoulder before swiftly delivering a straight kick to his chest. Reeve barely avoided stepping out of bounds and quickly regained his footing. Then, Reeve activated his Sharingan, causing Suika to pause in surprise. He has the Sharingan? Suika thought in astonishment. Aunt Ringo always said sparring was supposed to be fun. Iruka, watching the scene unfold, sighed inwardly. This just got a lot more complicated. Reeve sprinted toward Suika once again, now moving at twice the speed he had before. Suika barely managed to block the kunai strikes, relying on his enhanced reflexes to counter the attacks. The two young students exchanged precise blows, their skills evenly matched. A crowd of classmates began cheering for Suika as the sparring match continued. Suddenly, Reeve leapt into the air, wrapping his legs around Suika's shoulders before rolling onto the ground, pulling Suika down with him. Both quickly scrambled back to their feet, and this time, Suika took the offensive. Reeve, recalling his training, expertly blocked the attacks, absorbing the impact with his arms while skillfully countering with his legs. Reeve attempted a spinning crane kick, aiming for Suika's head, but miscalculated, his foot just missing by a few inches. As he landed, Suika retaliated with a powerful kick to Reeve's arms. Reeve smirked, quickly sweeping Suika's leg out from under him. In response, Suika delivered a swift kick to Reeve's jaw, creating distance between them. Wasting no time, Reeve charged again, dodging beneath Suika's counterattack. He swiftly struck toward Suika's ribs with his kunai, only to find another kunai lightly pressed against his own throat as he rose. Before their instructor, Iruka, could make a ruling, both Reeve and Suika lost their balance and tumbled to the ground, accidentally bumping faces as they landed. Their expressions turned to immediate disgust, which was nothing compared to the horrified reactions of the watching classmates. That's a tie, Iruka declared, suppressing a laugh. Reeve remained frozen in disbelief before quickly pushing Suika away. Both of them jumped up at the same time, still processing the result. What? They exclaimed in unison. Wait a minute, I should have won. Suika protested. I don't care what kind of enhanced abilities you have, Iruka said with an exasperated sigh. In this sparring ring, you're both treated as regular students. That means no special advantages. The class groaned, but Iruka ignored them. All right, let's take a break for lunch, he announced. Suika casually ran a hand over the seal on his right bracer, releasing a small stream of coffee into 2 cups, while Reeve sliced his sandwich, made with last night's roast pork, in half. Those two are going to be fierce rivals. But also the best of friends, Iruka thought, pinching the bridge of his nose. Suika glanced over at Reeve. Where did you learn that technique? Huh? The Sharingan. Where did you learn to use it? Oh, that. Reeve took a bite of his sandwich before continuing. When I was 1, an incident triggered it. After that, my uncle and dad decided I should be trained to control it. And, well, let's just say it's been useful. Not everyone in the village is exactly friendly toward me. Suika nodded. I mostly focus on using my scythe. I'm not a fan of lighter weapons, they never stay where I want them. He grinned. But I can throw my scythe and take down a tree in one shot. Maybe I could show you some. All right, everyone. Back to class. Iruka's voice cut through the chatter, interrupting Suika. The two boys sighed in unison. Figures. Okay, class, Iruka continued, we're going to determine your chakra affinities. This will help us understand if any of you already have a natural connection to a specific element. Just channel your chakra into this paper, and we'll see how it reacts. Suika stepped up first. His chakra paper immediately transformed into a small stone toad, signaling an affinity for toad scene jutsu. Reeve went next. Instead of the paper catching fire, as was common among the Uchiha, or wrinkling like Kakashi's lightning affinity, his paper darkened completely before crumbling to ash. Iruka blinked in surprise before consulting the chakra nature encyclopedia hidden under his desk. Reeve, this is unexpected. You have an extremely rare chakra nature known as dark release. It's almost unheard of outside the land of demons. The class murmured in curiosity as the rest of the students tested their affinities. Most saw little to no reaction from their papers, confirming they hadn't yet developed an elemental connection. As the day came to an end, Reeve and Suika walked out of the academy together. They hadn't gotten far when they were greeted by a familiar presence. Standing near the gate, a figure in an onbu mask waited for them. Sarah? Reeve asked, jogging toward her. Sarah, still wearing her fox-themed onbu mask, turned toward him. Hey! Your dad and uncle are still on their mission, and your aunt asked me to pick you up. She glanced at Suika. Who's your friend? Suika's Ann, Reeve introduced him. Well then, why don't we all grab some lunch? She suggested with a chuckle. I'm starving. And trust me, those onbu ration pills taste awful. She whispered the last part, making Reeve chuckle. They decided on sushi, one of Reeve's favorites, thanks to Sarah's influence. As they ate, Sarah turned to Reeve. So, what's your chakra affinity? Dark release, Reeve replied after a moment. At least, that's how Iruka described it. Sarah's eyes widened slightly at the revelation, her expression shifting from casual curiosity to intrigue. The dark release is incredibly rare and immensely powerful, you know, Sarah remarked. Just as she spoke, Kakashi, Obito, and Rin entered the shop. The moment Reeve noticed them, he jumped up excitedly and ran to his father, wrapping him in a big hug. Glad to see my little ninja safe and sound, Kakashi chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. You haven't gotten into any trouble, have you? Obito asked with a warm smile at his godson. Only with him, Reeve joked, pointing at Suika. But what are you all doing here? I thought you wouldn't be back until next week. His face lit up with excitement. We decided to come back early to hear all about your first day, Kakashi admitted, rubbing the back of his head with a sheepish grin. As he spoke, his expression changed the moment he noticed Suika. Yo! Suika greeted with a friendly wave and a smile. Do you two know each other? Obito asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, I was one of the shinobi who found him, Kakashi responded. Everyone gathered around the table, enjoying the moment. Reeve couldn't help but smirk as he noticed Sarah blushing whenever she glanced at Kakashi. He also knew his father was just as flustered. After all, he had discovered the pictures of Sarah that Kakashi kept hidden away. Observing people was always an interesting skill to have. Meanwhile, Suika and Reeve engaged in a competitive eating contest. However, things took a comical turn when they both lunged for the water jug at the same time, resulting in Kakashi getting completely drenched. His usually gravity-defying hair now flopped down over his visible eye. The evening was filled with laughter, lighthearted teasing, and cheerful conversation. Eventually, Sarah asked to speak with Kakashi privately, prompting an exaggerated ooh from Reeve, and Suika, joined, rather immaturely, by Obito, who promptly received a light smack from Rin for encouraging the antics. After a few minutes, curiosity got the better of Reeve, and despite the adults' disapproval, and Suika's amused chuckles, he decided to check on them. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. Sarah was leaning against the wall, her arms draped over Kakashi's shoulders as they shared a kiss. Reeve simply turned and walked back to the table with an amused smirk. Without a word, he casually fist-bumped Suika. What's with that grin? Rin asked suspiciously. Dad and Sarah are kissing, Reeve replied nonchalantly. A few quiet giggles followed, though Rin quickly stopped Obito from trying to sneak a peek, much to his disappointment. When Kakashi and Sarah finally returned, everyone burst into applause and cheers, making Kakashi visibly flustered. The slight redness on the exposed part of his face, along with his ears, gave him away. "Well, that certainly took long enough," Obito teased. "So that's how you kiss?" Reeve mused aloud. "Reeve, be polite," Rin chided in a gentle but firm voice, giving him a quick nudge under the table. The evening ended on a cheerful note, and Suika stayed over at Reeve's for the night. The reason? A slight misunderstanding involving Reeve's nine-tailed fox companion and a particularly thoughtless joke from Suika, one that resulted in Reeve accidentally knocking Suika's nose out of place. Fortunately, nothing a little medical attention couldn't fix. And with that, another memorable night came to a close. Reeve had been attending the academy for 3 months and had already advanced beyond her grade level, progressing so quickly that she was moved up a year. "Hey, Reeve!" Suika called out, waving with his usual cheerful yet mischievous grin. The two exchanged a fist bump, their customary greeting. "Hey, Suika," Reeve responded with a similar smile. "Is it just me, or has the homework been piling up lately?" Suika asked. "You're not wrong," Reeve agreed, holding up the thick stack of assignments they had yet to complete, 56 pages in total. Iruka was still their instructor, and despite his attempts to deny it, he had a particular fondness for the two of them, though it often manifested as exasperation rather than open admiration. The first class of the day was Taijutsu, a subject both Reeve and Suika excelled in. They were rising through the ranks quickly, and it was especially enjoyable for Suika, as it allowed him to showcase his agility and strength. Much like Reeve, he also saw it as an opportunity to display his well-toned physique. The mere mention of taijutsu was often enough for him to dramatically remove his shirt. "Alright, class, we have something special planned today," Iruka announced. Since it's Suika's anniversary of returning to Konoha, and because we all know how much he enjoys taijutsu, today's session will be a team challenge. The entire class will be working together against Suika in a friendly endurance match. Suika's face lit up with excitement. "And before either of you ask, no weapons," Iruka added, pointing directly at Reeve and Suika. "Aw, come on," Reeve groaned in playful disappointment. "No advanced weapon techniques, no dangerous injuries." "A bit less exciting, but I'm in," Suika said with a thumbs up. Everyone took their positions, and just before the match began, Iruka announced that participants could use their dojutsu. Neji, Reeve, and Suika, all of whom possessed special visual abilities, readied themselves. Suika swallowed hard when she noticed Neji and Reeve smirking. Most of the class had been eliminated fairly quickly, leaving only Neji, Rock Lee, and Reeve in the ring. The three surrounded Suika, but instead of attacking immediately, Neji activated his Byakugan and observed. Lee was the first to make a move, charging at Suika with impressive speed. However, his punch narrowly missed as Suika dodged, countering with a precise roundhouse kick to his midsection, followed by an axe kick that sent him to the ground. Neji glanced at Reeve. "Would you like to take the next round, or shall I?" "Your Byakugan is already active, so be my guest," Reeve replied, taking a seat at the edge of the ring. Neji swiftly engaged Suika, launching a series of palm strikes. Suika blocked them with difficulty, using her natural energy-enhanced forearms to deflect Neji's chakra-infused attacks. Neji's speed and precision were formidable, but Suika understood that without his dojutsu, Neji's effectiveness would be significantly reduced. Seizing an opportunity, Suika swept Neji's leg from under him, but Neji countered by using his hand to balance and launched a quick follow-up kick. Suika narrowly avoided it but lost her balance in the process, forcing her into a defensive stance. Neji quickly regained his footing and shifted into his gentle fist stance. Suika, on the other hand, chose a more balanced approach, positioning her feet shoulder-width apart and raising her hands into a defensive boxing stance. The two clashed, exchanging rapid strikes. Each of Neji's attacks landed with a distinct impact, while Suika's blows sent shockwaves of chakra and senjutsu energy outward before dissipating. Both were sweating, but neither showed signs of slowing down. Neji managed to land a well-placed strike to Suika's nose, causing a sharp crack. In response, Suika delivered a powerful heel kick to his midsection, forcing him back. A murmur spread through the onlookers as Neji struggled to his feet, visibly winded. Determined, he charged forward once more, only to be met with a precise right hook that broke through his defenses. The force of the punch sent Neji stumbling out of the ring. "Neji, out," Iruka announced. From a rooftop, Kakashi, Obito, and Guy observed the match, while Rin, Sarah, and Wolf watched from the bushes nearby. Reeve activated his Sharingan, his right eye displaying 3 Tomoe while his left had 2. Suika took note of this, understanding that Reeve's increased perception would make him an even tougher opponent. Reeve stood and assumed his usual fighting stance, positioning his feet shoulder-width apart. His right hand was aligned with his nose, while his left protected his core, forming a solid defensive posture. Sarah smirked from her vantage point. After all, she had been the one to train him in taijutsu, while Wolf had taught him swordsmanship. Without hesitation, Reeve launched forward, delivering a powerful kick to Suika's chest. The impact knocked the wind out of her, but she quickly responded by planting her fingers into the ground, carving deep lines in the dirt to halt her movement just before reaching the ring's edge. Wasting no time, Suika charged forward, unleashing a flurry of punches. Reeve, however, remained composed, blocking each strike with ease. His enhanced perception made his defense nearly impenetrable. This guy's Anbu training is really paying off. He's becoming an incredibly tough opponent, Suika thought, gritting her teeth. Suika's endurance is unbelievable. She's taken so many hits, yet she's still coming at me with full force. Reeve mused as he steadied his stance. The battle was far from over. Reeve executed a powerful aerial kick, landing it precisely on Suika's jaw, sending him soaring. Without hesitation, Reeve sprang from a crouched position, swiftly following up with a side kick to Suika's ribs, resulting in a distinct cracking sound. Both landed on the ground, Suika clutching his side, while a small trickle of blood escaped his lips. However, within moments, steam emanated from the affected area as his body rapidly healed, erasing any signs of injury. Suika regained his footing, bracing himself for the next round. Reeve, on the other hand, was growing frustrated. No matter how hard she tried, she could never seem to keep her friend down. The strain was taking its toll, her body aching from exertion. Without warning, Suika launched forward, delivering a strong kick to Reeve's nose, resulting in a sharp crack as it shifted at an unnatural angle. Without missing a beat, Reeve grasped her nose and quickly adjusted it back into place. Clenching her fist tightly, Reeve's frustration grew, her nails pressing into her palms. A low growl escaped her lips as she charged forward with speed that Suika could barely register, let alone react to. A sharp pain flared in his side, and for a brief moment, he caught a glimpse of something unusual, a faint red aura trailing behind Reeve. She came to a halt for just a second, giving Suika the chance to truly look at her. Her nails had elongated and sharpened, her hair appeared wilder, and her canines were sharper, resembling those of a feline. But the most striking transformation was her eyes, her Sharingan now encircled a fox-like pupil. Iruka, observing from the sidelines, immediately understood the situation. Reeve had tapped into the fox's chakra. Without hesitation, he stepped in. "That's enough," he commanded, positioning himself between them. Neji and a now consciously restrained Suika while Iruka focused on calming Reeve, a task that would be far from simple. At that moment, Kakashi emerged from the trees. "Reeve, calm down." His voice, firm and authoritative, sent a wave of unease through the academy students. It was a rare tone from him, one that left no room for defiance. The lingering red chakra around Reeve flickered before dissipating entirely as she lost balance. Before she could hit the ground, Kakashi caught her, noting how exhausted she was. Iruka dismissed the class, but most students remained, silently watching Reeve as if she were an enigma. Suika, now leaning against the wall, exhaled deeply. Kakashi carefully lifted Reeve and carried her home. Upon arriving, Sarah was already waiting, her concern evident in her expression. She had always had a soft spot for Reeve, as did her brother, Wolf. By now, Reeve was fast asleep, allowing Kakashi to gently lay her on the couch. "How is she?" Sarah asked, worry clear in her voice. "She's asleep, but that was a close call," Kakashi responded, absent-mindedly running a hand through Reeve's hair. Sarah hesitated before speaking. "Everyone at her school will probably think she's even more of a," she stopped herself before finishing the sentence. "They already do," Kakashi replied with a sigh. "But it's not her fault." Just then, a quiet voice broke the silence. "Tosan?" Kakashi immediately turned to see Reeve stirring. He rushed to her side, pulling her into a hug, a single tear slipping from his visible eye. "Dad? Am I a monster?" Reeve's voice was soft, uncertain. Kakashi pulled back slightly, looking at her with both concern and determination. "Why would you ever think that?" His voice was firm but filled with care. "Because everyone hates me. They blame me for something I didn't do. And now, I seriously hurt Suika." Her usual stoic eyes wavered as tears slipped down her face, and she buried herself in Kakashi's embrace. Sarah stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Reeve as well. Determined to lift the mood, she suddenly brightened. "I have an idea," she exclaimed. "How about we invite Suika out for some ramen?" "That actually sounds pretty good," Suika's voice chimed in from the balcony. "Though, I've gotta say, that really hurt like a." "Watch your language," Sarah scolded before he could finish. "Reeve, I don't hold it against you. I know it was the fox, not you," Suika said with a warm smile, reassuring her friend. "I may be small, but I'm certainly not shallow." With their plan set, they prepared to head out. However, just as they reached the door, Reeve paused, turning to Sarah before embracing her tightly. "Thank you, Ka-san," Reeve murmured softly into the hug. Sarah froze for a moment, her eyes widening in surprise. Slowly, emotion welled up within her, and tears began to gather. "Off you go, little ninja," Kakashi said, noticing Sarah's reaction. Curious, Kakashi turned toward her. "What happened?" he asked gently. Sarah wiped a tear from her eye, smiling through her emotion. "He called me Ka-san," she whispered, her heart full. A great deal had transpired over the years. It was finally graduation day, and Suikan and Reeve were filled with excitement, Reeve, eager for the opportunity to officially train with his sword, and Suika, looking forward to earning some real income from missions. The day was filled with anticipation for most, except for the Hokage and the Anbu, who appeared unusually tense. "Lord Hokage, we have received troubling reports," one Anbu operative stated, his tone carrying a weight of concern. "Several of our allied villages have been overrun by an unidentified foreign force. Both Sunagakur and Takigakur have fallen under their control." The Hokage's expression remained calm, but an unmistakable sense of unease settled over him. "What of the other villages?" he inquired, though he dreaded the answer. "We have yet to receive any updates, but the last message from Kumagakur seemed strange, for lack of a better word," another Anbu member replied. The Hokage's eyes narrowed. "Dispatch squads to every village immediately. I want a full report on the situation as soon as possible," he ordered, though the tension in his voice was subtle. The Anbu nodded and vanished, leaving no trace. Just then, a messenger arrived, informing the Hokage that the Kazekage of Sunagakur and the elders of Takigakur had arrived at the village gates, accompanied by a group of displaced villagers. "You must understand, we have nowhere else to turn, and many of our people are in need of medical attention," the Kazekage pleaded. Before the gate guards could respond, the Hokage himself arrived. "Let them in. They have endured enough," he commanded. "Ensure they receive food and water immediately." "And why haven't the medical nin been dispatched yet?" "At once, Lord Hokage." The guards responded before swiftly vanishing to carry out his orders. "I will explain everything soon," the the Kazekage murmured to his counterpart, his voice heavy with exhaustion. Meanwhile, Reeve and Suika were sprinting through the village, knowing full well they were late, again. The last thing they needed was another lecture from Iruka. I knew stopping for coffee was a mistake. Reeve groaned. Oh, please, Suika retorted. This is coming from the guy who thought a giant chocolate chip cookie was a good idea. And for the record, coffee is never a mistake. Says the person who ended up in the hospital after trying to drink 100 shots of espresso, Reeve shot back. Over the past 8 years, the two had changed significantly, though in different ways. Reeve had grown considerably taller and had a lean yet defined build. His hair, now mirroring his father's, was kept short on the sides and back, with the longer strands usually tied up, though today, it was left loose. His sense of style remained similar, with a few additions: plated, fingerless gloves and a gray and black hoodie featuring the Hatake crest on the back. The hoodie was mostly gray, with 2 black stripes running from the wrists up the inside of his arms, meeting at the armpits before continuing down to the waist. Suika, on the other hand, had undergone a single growth spurt, bringing his height up to 4'7". His build was lean but well-toned, and he bore a striking resemblance to his uncle, Hidan. His rugged features set him apart from his peers. He had kept his dark platinum hair in a ducktail and now wore a form-fitting, long-sleeved neoprene shirt, baggy blue pants tucked into knee-high black boots, and a holster with a blank plate, similar in design to Chojuro's. Additionally, he carried a new triple-bladed scythe, modeled after his uncle's, and continued to wear his chakra steel forearm bracers. As the two friends darted across the rooftops, they continued their usual back-and-forth banter. "You're late." Iruka's voice rang out as they reached the classroom, only to get stuck in the doorway after both tried to enter at the same time. "Move it. Maybe lay off the snacks once in a while." Reeve grumbled, pushing against Suika. Says the guy who devours an entire roast chicken for dinner and then claims he's still hungry 10 minutes later, Suika retorted. Iruka sighed and pulled the door open wider, causing both of them to tumble onto the floor. "Technically, we're not late," Reeve quipped, still lying on the ground. "We're just extremely early for tomorrow." Ignoring their antics, the two quickly took their usual seats in the back corner, dubbed the late seats since everyone knew they always ended up there. "As I was saying, today is your graduation day," Iruka began, but he suddenly stopped as the Hokage entered the room. "Lord Hokage." Iruka quickly bowed in respect, his previous frustration momentarily forgotten. "Good evening, class. First of all, congratulations are in order. However, your group is about to grow significantly," the Hokage announced. "2 of our allied villages have arrived after facing unfortunate circumstances. Their future Genin will be joining your class and taking the test alongside you," the Hokage stated firmly. As a group of students entered the room, a few stood out: Gara of the Sand Waterfall, Tamari, Kankuro, Fu, and an unfamiliar girl with short black hair. Most of the new arrivals went unnoticed, except for one particular girl who immediately caught Reeve's attention. She was noticeably shorter than the rest, almost at the height of a training dummy, yet her striking blue eyes made it impossible for Reeve to look away. Her attire consisted of black leggings, a purple spaghetti strap top, and black ankle-high sneakers. "For this exam, you will not be permitted to use personal weapons. However, kunai are allowed," the Hokage clarified. "Wait, what? I can't use my kusarigama? That's so unfair," the short-haired girl protested. "I'm afraid not," Iruka responded, shaking his head. Meanwhile, Suika nudged Reeve and whispered, Reeve. Your nose." Reeve, lost in thought, was unaware of his nosebleed. Suika paused for a second before dramatically exclaiming, "Oh my goodness. Oh. My. Word." The new students found their seats, and as fate would have it, the short-haired girl ended up sitting next to Suika, right at Reeve's table. Suika kept giggling at him as he awkwardly attempted to stop his nosebleed by shoving 2 cotton swabs up his nostrils. "Why do you always carry those with you?" Suika asked with amusement. I get nosebleeds from sparring. Genius, Reeve retorted. And that time you gave Anko one because she ran out of supplies? Consider it a bonus, Reeve replied with a smirk. Iruka then instructed the students to demonstrate a D-rank clone jutsu and substitution jutsu. However, both Suika and Reeve were excused from the exercise due to Suika's unique Kekkei Genkai and the unstable nature of Reeve's dark release. Must be nice to get a free pass, someone muttered in annoyance. Before Reeve could react, Suika and Neji quickly held him back while Lee and Tenten positioned themselves between him and the complaining student, preventing any further conflict. Once the situation calmed down, the class moved outside for sparring exercises. Reeve glanced around, searching for Kakashi, but he was nowhere to be seen. His godparents, Sarah and Wolf, were hidden on the roof, a fact he knew well since he was familiar with all of their usual hiding spots. Guess To-san isn't coming. Reeve thought to himself, a hint of disappointment in his eyes. All right, class. Today's sparring session will be a little different, Iruka announced. This time, you get to choose your opponent. It can be a fellow classmate, a Chunin, or even a Jonin. Suika was the first to be called and chose to fight a Chunin. As soon as the match began, the Chunin charged at Suika, only to be swiftly knocked to the ground by a well-placed counterattack. Reeve high-fived Suika, laughing as the Chunin, now slightly embarrassed, muttered that he had gone easy on him. Next, Lee chose to spar with Neji, while Tenten opted to challenge the mysterious short-haired girl. Their battle was particularly interesting, as both specialized in ranged attacks, leading to an intense exchange that ultimately ended in a tie. Finally, it was Reeve's turn. Without hesitation, he chose a Jonin. To his surprise, the one who stepped forward was none other than Kakashi. To-san? Reeve exclaimed, caught off guard. Hey there, little ninja, Kakashi greeted casually, much to Reeve's embarrassment. As Kakashi lifted his headband to reveal his Sharingan, Reeve activated his own. His had developed significantly, now boasting 3 tomoe in each eye. Wasting no time, Reeve charged forward at impressive speeds that rivaled even a Jonin. However, his attacks, though fast, still lacked precision. He launched a series of strikes using extended stances, hoping to lure Kakashi into an opening. After a few moments of exchanging blows, Kakashi decided to engage more seriously. With a swift movement, he struck the back of Reeve's knee, causing him to stagger. Reeve, however, quickly adapted, falling onto his back, positioning his left foot behind Kakashi's right leg, and delivering a well-timed kick to his waist. As he pulled his left foot inward, Kakashi momentarily lost balance and fell. Seizing the opportunity, Reeve leapt into the air, aiming for a spinning axe kick. Kakashi, however, managed to block it just in time, countering with a light kick to Reeve's back as a reminder of the gap in their skill levels. Both Hatakes quickly got back on their feet, the energy of the sparring match only intensifying. Reeve removed his hoodie and tossed it to Suika, drawing the attention of a few new students who couldn't help but admire his sharp features. You're all such shameless onlookers, Suika muttered under her breath. Reeve ignored the remark and turned to Kakashi. Are we allowed to use ninjutsu? I don't see a problem with it, Kakashi replied casually. Without hesitation, Reeve formed a series of hand signs, summoning a gravitational sphere. He paused briefly before directing it toward his father. Kakashi barely evaded the technique, watching as it struck a nearby tree, splintering it instantly. Fortunately, everyone managed to dodge, except for Suika, who took a few stray fragments. Not exactly the friendliest way to test your skills, don't you think? Kakashi said with feigned offense. Then, without missing a beat, he performed the signature hand seal of the Shadow Clone Jutsu. 2 identical clones dashed toward Reeve, who struggled to fend off their coordinated attack. Each clone seized one of his arms, pinning him in place while a firm grip on his shoulders forced him onto one knee. Kakashi swiftly moved in and threw a punch, but Reeve reacted in time, shifting his body and pulling a clone into the strike. Using the momentum, he spun around and delivered a kick to the other clone's head, dispersing it instantly. Panting slightly, Reeve felt the drain on his chakra. His gravitational technique required immense energy, and while his reserves were substantial, his Sharingan added to the burden. As a half Uchiha, his chakra consumption wasn't as efficient as a pure-blooded Uchiha's, but it was still less demanding than his father's. Getting tired? Kakashi asked, raising an eyebrow. Not at all, Reeve responded, charging forward. His next move was swift, a powerful right hook to Kakashi's jaw, immediately followed by a low kick that swept his leg. As Kakashi lost balance, Reeve twisted mid-air and landed an elbow to the back of his father's shoulder. Kakashi quickly recovered, pushing Reeve away before regaining his footing. He barely had time to react before Reeve lunged again. But instead of attacking, his Sharingan deactivated, and he tackled Kakashi in an unexpected hug. Kakashi blinked in surprise before a warm smile spread across his face. He returned the embrace. "Well done, my boy," he said with pride. Just then, Sarah stepped forward into the ring. "Hey, Ka-san." Reeve grinned, immediately breaking away from his father to hug her. "Hey, kiddo," Sarah said, ruffling his hair. "Your father and I had a little bet." Kakashi then unsheathed the Hatake family sword, the legendary white light chakra blade. He carefully passed it to Reeve, a tradition for a Hatake child coming of age. Reeve held the blade with reverence, emotion welling up in his chest. If it weren't for the watchful eyes of his classmates, he might have let a tear slip. "Thank you, To-san," he said sincerely, bowing slightly. The act left the crowd stunned. Reeve wasn't exactly known for formality. Kakashi chuckled. "Who are you, and what have you done with my child? Am I not allowed to show some respect?" Reeve asked, placing a hand on his chest in mock indignation. "No." Suika called out from the crowd. "Quiet, you." Reeve shot back. "I'm trying to have a moment here." Sarah burst into laughter before joining in on the hug, pulling both Reeve and Kakashi into a warm embrace. The rest of the class continued with their sparring matches, though none were particularly noteworthy in comparison. Eventually, Suika and Reeve decided that a coffee break was in order, and Kakashi and Sarah joined them. Meanwhile, Wolf set off to inform the Hokage of the latest developments. Elsewhere, in the Hokage's office, an urgent meeting was taking place. "The attack was swift and overwhelming," the Kazekage reported gravely. "We lost nearly all our shinobi in a matter of minutes. I have never seen a village fall so quickly." The Hokage, sipping his tea, listened intently. "Who was leading the assault?" The Kazekage's expression darkened. "Orochimaru." Before the Hokage could respond, Wolf suddenly appeared, perched gracefully on the windowsill. "Must you always avoid using the door?" the Hokage muttered with a sigh. Without a word, Wolf handed over a stack of documents before disappearing just as swiftly. "You are both welcome to become part of the Hidden Leaf Village," the Hokage continued, rubbing his temples. "In fact, I could use some extra help with certain decisions." "We would be honored," one of the Taki elders responded before the Kazekage could interject with his usual impulsive remarks. Reeve quickly returned home, carefully placed the sword on his bed, and then hurried to join everyone at the barbecue restaurant. Seated beside Tenten, with Neji to her right, Reeve found himself in good company. Lee sat next to Neji, followed by Might Guy, Sarah, Kakashi, and Suika. The evening was filled with laughter and lighthearted conversation, and, surprisingly, Neji and Reeve got along, a rare occurrence, to say the least. Everything seemed to be going well, or so they believed. Hey everyone! As we move into the next segment, stay with us, there's plenty more to come. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting that button to stay updated with all our latest content. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Best. Anime Dreams.